There is a kind of person whose brain never truly shuts off. They notice too much, not because they want to, but because they cannot stop. A glance that avoids them for just a second. The smallest change in someone's tone of voice, or a pause that comes half a beat too late. Tiny details that the outside world casually passes over, but for them, every single one is taken in, enlarged, and recorded with sharp clarity. From the outside, people often call this being perceptive, a social advantage, even a gift of intuition. But psychology reveals a completely different truth, a truth that the people with this superpower are often the last to realize. Because what looks like sensitivity from the outside is actually quietly tightening around them like a trap from within. Welcome back to Apex. Today, we are going to decode the truth about people who notice too much, why their brain gets stuck in constant analysis mode, and more importantly, how to remove this invisible weight and find peace again. To understand why you cannot simply stop paying attention, we need to unpack how your brain was shaped. Behavioral psychology shows that this extreme ability to observe does not come from you thinking too much or overthinking. It is the result of your neural structure, divided into two groups with two completely different levels. Group 1, the matrix error finder algorithm. In this group, the reticular activating system, or RAS, in their brain is born with an exceptional ability, a drive to search for incongruence. Let's make this clear right away. This is not a mental illness or a disorder that needs medication. Deep studies in evolutionary neuroscience since the 1990s have shown that about 15% to 20% of the world's population is born with this trait. That means out of every 5 people, 1 person has a brain that works like yours. It is not a system error. It is a healthy neurodivergent background. Imagine their brain as an algorithm that constantly scans for errors. They do not scan a space to look for joy. They scan for the mismatch between what a person shows on the outside and the real energy they carry on the inside. You hear someone say, "I'm really happy you came." In 1,000th of a second, your brain has already analyzed the tiny stiffness on their face and the small breath they held back in their chest. Right away, the algorithm in your head sends out an error signal. When it detects this crack, the brain releases neurotransmitters that push you to decode it. Why are they lying? And just like that, you get pulled into an endless psychological equation. Group 2, children who had their roles reversed. If the first group is an inborn algorithmic structure, the second group carries a much deeper and far more painful psychological burden. Their ability to observe is a legacy of survival and responsibility. Clinical psychology calls this the result of parentification, the experience of children being forced to become the parents of their own parents. They grew up in an environment where the adults around them were too fragile, unstable, or unable to manage their own emotions. This child's observation did not stop at the level of hypervigilance, where they stayed alert to protect themselves from being hit or yelled at. It was heavier than that. They observed in order to carry the burden. They scanned the atmosphere at home to see whether their mother was upset that day, so they could step into the role of a little therapist and soothe her. They glanced at their father's face to know when they needed to step in as the peacemaker before a fight broke out. That child was not allowed to have a silly, carefree childhood. They were forced to become an emotional air conditioner for the whole family. Years passed. That child grew up and moved out. But the old radar of responsibility had already sunk into their blood. It turned them into adults who automatically collect and care for the emotions of the entire room, draining themselves over pain that was never theirs to carry. When the brain operates at a higher level of intake than normal, it creates a series of very specific experiences. Things that, if you live with them every day, you may no longer even recognize as unusual. Sign 1. Being forced to watch subtitles before the sound. Have you ever experienced this feeling? It is exactly like sitting in a movie theater, but the system has glitched. The subtitles appear before the character on screen even opens their mouth. You already know everything that is about to happen, and the rest is just a boring wait for the script to play out. This is the delay and drag in your communication. Let's take a very everyday example. You ask a coworker, "Do you want to grab coffee this weekend?" Right before they open their mouth to answer, your radar has already turned on. You catch the tiny tightening of their shoulders. You see their eyes glance down to the lower right corner, as if clearing the way for a lie. You hear a breath that comes half a second off rhythm, and that is it. The subtitle has already appeared clearly in your mind. They do not want to go. But the tragedy is that you cannot interrupt them and say, "It's okay, I know you do not want to go, you do not have to say it." Society does not allow you to do that. So you have to stand there, stuck in place, forcing out a sympathetic smile for the next 10 seconds while patiently listening to them finish performing a perfectly polite rejection script. Oh, I'm so sorry. Something suddenly came up with my family this weekend. Always having to live a few seconds ahead of the conversation, already knowing the other person is about to lie or make an excuse, while still having to play the role of someone who knows nothing, is an extremely suffocating and fake experience that you are forced to swallow. Sign 2. Being tortured by the secondhand smoke of emotion. We all know the harm of secondhand cigarette smoke. Someone else lights the cigarette, but the toxic smoke goes straight into your lungs. For people who notice too much, the nonverbal emotions of the world around them are a kind of invisible toxic smoke. You step into an elevator ride from the first floor to the 10th floor, lasting only 1 minute, with 2 coworkers. No one says a word. Everyone is staring down at their phone screen. On the surface, it is a completely quiet space. But inside your brain, it is different. Your radar catches the tightness in the jaw of the person standing in front of you. You hear the heavy breathing of the person behind you, full of restraint and irritation. You feel the suffocating field of energy crashing between the two of them. The elevator doors open, the two of them go their separate ways. But you? Suddenly your chest feels heavy, your mood drops fast, and your mind feels as tense as a stretched wire. As if you were the one who had just gone through a heated argument. You get emotionally poisoned by people you are not even close to. You are drained not because you worked too much, but because you had to digest the non-verbal noise of a world that is always full of instability. Sign 3. The curse of the canary in the coal mine. In the 19th century, miners often brought a small canary down into the deep tunnels underground. Because a canary's breathing system is extremely sensitive, it would faint when toxic gas leaked, long before humans could smell it. Its sacrifice was the warning that told the miners to run. You are the canary in social relationships. You are the first person to smell the scent of toxicity. You can see a friendship about to fall apart just from the way 2 people change their tone when talking about each other. You notice the fakeness and manipulation of someone who has just joined the team, while everyone else is still charmed by his smooth personality. And because you are the canary, you speak up to warn them. You tell your close friend, be careful with him. But what is the tragedy? Because the people around you have not smelled anything yet. Because they do not have any concrete proof, they immediately label you. They say you are too sensitive. They say you overthink, that you are suspicious, or even that you are jealous and trying to ruin everyone else's fun. You get pushed to the edge, and then you are forced to stand there, completely helpless, watching the people you love slowly walk into danger, watching the wreckage happen exactly the way your radar system had been screaming about for months. Sign 4. Becoming water in a container. There is a very good saying, pour water into a glass, and it takes the shape of the glass. Pour it into a bowl, and it takes the shape of the bowl. Because you pay such close attention to other people's reactions, you know exactly what makes them happy and what upsets them. And to keep the world around you calm, you begin to activate one of the cruelest skills, the self-editor. You become a master of automatic color changing. When you meet someone who likes quiet, you automatically shrink your energy and speak more softly. When you meet a partner who likes enthusiasm and loud energy, you immediately raise your energy to match them. When you have to text a suspicious boss, you type, then delete, then carefully polish every comma and every emoji to make sure there is no space for misunderstanding. You bend yourself to fit everyone's expectations. You please everyone. But at the end of the day, when the bedroom door closes, when there is no one left for you to read, you look in the mirror, exhausted, and ask yourself, what is my real shape when there is no container holding me? You lose your originality, your innocence, and the sharp edges of yourself, all in exchange for a fake sense of safety in other people's eyes. Sign 5. Going through social, system freezes. Everyone knows a hangover is the headache and nausea that come after a night of drinking. But for you, you go through social hangovers even when you have not had a single drop of alcohol. Imagine your cognitive memory as the RAM of a computer. When it gets filled with millions of junk files, it does not break. It simply freezes so it can clean itself up. Today, you go out with a group of friends. It is a fun hangout. No arguments, no drama. You laugh and talk for 4 hours straight. But when you get home, the moment you put the key into the lock and close the door behind you, you suddenly go blank. You drop your bag on the floor. You sit down heavily on the edge of the bed. You do not want to look at your phone. You do not want to take a shower. You do not want to reply to any messages from your partner. You do not even want to reach out and turn on the light. You just sit there, empty in the dark for a full 30 minutes. Your family thinks you are sad or that something shocking happened. But no, you are not sad. Your brain is simply screaming to dump tens of thousands of useless pieces of data it was forced to record throughout the day. Person A's forced smile, Person B's avoidant eyes, the waitress's frown. All of it is clogging the system, and your body goes on strike, demanding emptiness back. Of the 5 signs we just went through, which ones feel the most like you? Leave a comment and share it with me. And if your answer is all 5 of them, then I know what kind of life you have been living. You have spent your whole youth reading the smallest footnotes in other people's lives. You know your coworker likes their coffee with less ice and extra milk. You know when your best friend needs a hug and when they need to be left alone. You see straight through the tangled wounds they are trying to hide behind smiling photos on social media. You are a gifted tailor, carefully stitching back together the torn souls of this world. But here is the cruel paradox. When you step back and look around, it seems like no one in this life even bothers to read your biggest headlines. People assume you are strong. They think you are sensitive enough to heal yourself. They turn you into a safe shelter, an emotional trash bin where they can dump all their sadness. But when the storms come into your life, you do not even have a roof to stand under. That is an invisible imbalance in understanding. Your loneliness does not come from being alone in an empty room. Your loneliness comes from standing in the middle of a noisy crowd, seeing straight into all of their hearts, protecting all of them, only to realize with horror, none of them are truly looking back at you. None of them know where you are really hurting. So what is the way out for us? Honestly, there is no pill that can make you notice less, just like you cannot ask someone with good hearing to stop hearing sounds. The goal is not to change the way you take information in. The goal is to change the way you respond to what has already entered your mind. Skill 1. Cut the cord between observation and intervention. Next time, when you see a coworker frowning in frustration or a friend hiding their insecurity, your radar system will sound the alarm. Resist it. Simply acknowledge the fact in your mind, okay, they are not doing well, and that is it. Let it stop there. You do not need to make a joke to soften the atmosphere. You do not need to pull them aside and ask what is wrong if they are not ready to talk. Allow other people to have bad moods, to be a mess, without needing you to play the savior. Skill 2. Accept the broken things that do not belong to you. People who notice too much often carry an unconscious belief. If I do not worry, no one will. If I do not pay attention, everything will fall apart. You think that because you can see the risk ahead of time, you are responsible for stopping it. You see through the dishonesty of a man who is flirting with your close friend. You have analyzed it, and you have honestly warned her once. But she brushes it off and still chooses to stay in that toxic relationship. What you need to do now is step back. Do not try to collect more evidence. Do not try to convince her. Sometimes another person's lesson in growing up is that they have to walk through the broken pieces themselves. Your job is not to jump into the mud and pull them out. Your job is to stand on the shore and only reach out your hand when they truly call for help. When you begin to let go of those nameless burdens, a quiet transformation will take place. Not quickly, not easily, but steadily over time. Your ability to observe, which has always been your instinct, does not disappear. It simply changes direction, from draining your energy to serving your own life. Instead of being a sponge that absorbs every vibration until it is dry, you slowly learn how to choose what deserves your attention and what should be allowed to pass by. The biggest change is not that you see less. It is that you are no longer swept away by everything you see. At that point, the burden begins to take on a new shape. In relationships, you become a safe harbor where others feel truly understood. You listen not only with your ears, but with your full presence. At work, you can reach the hidden layers of meaning, the unnamed worries, the needs behind the surface requests, things that cannot be found in any skill book. And in the most unstable moments, when someone has nowhere left to hold on to, you become the place they come to. Not because you have all the answers, but because around you, they are allowed to stop forcing themselves to pretend they are okay. In the end, the distance between being drained by your sensitivity and living in harmony with it does not lie in how much you see. It lies in this: how much of that world you decide to carry with you. If you are someone who always sees the tiny details the world accidentally overlooks, I understand your exhaustion. I understand the feeling of being drained after long days or feeling out of place in the middle of a crowd when your brain keeps replaying everything and refuses to let you sleep. I also know you are tired of hearing people say, "Stop overthinking." They do not understand that if you could unplug your own mind, you would have done it a long time ago. But remember this: there is nothing wrong with your mind. You are simply seeing life through a lens with extremely high resolution. Do not break it. Do not blame yourself for being different. Learn to set boundaries, and most importantly, be less harsh with yourself. You do not notice too much. You simply feel this world more deeply than other people do. Of the 5 signs we just unpacked, which cost are you paying the most every day? Leave a comment and name that exact sign so we can share it with each other. If this video touched something inside you, do not forget to hit like and send it to a friend who is also exhausted by the noise inside their mind. I am Apex. Thank you for staying until this very moment. See you again.